Did you see this TJ Brodie social media rumor that was going around about
Social media rumor.
What about
eh?
the buyout?
I don't even know where it came
The
from.
buyout one.
Yeah, buying out
It's-
TJ
It
Brodie.
makes no sense.
It makes no
at all.
sense. I'm just trying to figure out where it came from.
I don't know. Probably the same place as the one about Schneider being fired yesterday.
Yeah, the same guy.
The
We won't
same
mention
guy.
his name, but yeah, it was Justin Pooney who started the TJ Brodie buyout rumor, which makes zero sense, by the way. But let's get our next guest to weigh on it. It's Justin Bourne of Real Kyper and Bourne of Sportsnet. Justin, did you hear about this thing?
Yeah, I did. I can tell you the origin. The origin is a guy who knows who he's talking about. Usually it's Frank Saravalli. He has a podcast on Daily Faceoff, and he was just kind of, kicking things around that the Leafs might do. And yeah, that one stood out to me too, because you're right. It got everyone talking on social media, and it was like, wait, wasn't he one of like 2 good defensemen they had in the regular season last year? Still a pretty value guy. Like, it's an absolute, that would be a bizarre move of all the things the Leafs could do this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, it's unlikely, I think, that TJ Brodie gets moved. Everybody wants to talk about the core 4 and who's going to go. We've been talking about on the show at nauseum.
Yeah.
And I think maybe you feel the same way, but I'm so tired of hearing the term core 4. I'd rather one of these guys get traded so we don't have to hear that anymore. You wrote a really good article on Sportsnet titled, "Can the Maple Leafs Get Better by Trading One of Their Stars?" So if they do that, and we're probably talking about Mitch Marner and Willie Nylander, how do they get better by doing that?
There's no easy path forward or even an obvious one. And that's pretty typical, I think. Anytime you trade a superstar in any sports, you can get back all the, trade a loony and you get back 10 dimes and almost you never end up ahead. So it's tough to find a way. But, I guess one thing that could make sense is like, do you trust the Leafs goaltending with Samsonov and Woll? And if not, UC Saros is a guy in Nashville who makes $5 million a year. Part of it in today's NHL is that the cap is so tight and hasn't moved that cap space is a huge asset. So if you were to trade away a guy like Mitch Marner who makes 11 and you bring in UC Saros, who is one of the 5 best goalies in the NHL and has been for years, at $5 million and he has 2 more seasons, all of a sudden you have $6 million to play with, and you can sign a guy like Dmitry Orlov, who's been a good defenseman. If everything goes right and Orlov wants to sign with you and you get him cheap, yada, yada, it's like, okay, you can see a way that the team is different, better in some areas, and, they still doesn't solve the problem of scoring goals, which was the problem for them in the playoffs. But just trying to find ways that they can make that happen and still and not get worse, quite frankly.
Yeah, but it's Joe Wall, He's the next Carey Price. Come on now, Justin.
Hall of Famer. I know. Everyone loves him in Toronto already.
A great article, by the way. You wrote that change doesn't always make you better, but it also doesn't always make you worse either. It just makes you different, which sometimes in itself is addition through subtraction, is it not?
Yeah, no, that's it. And like I used the article in there, the example in the article of just relationships, man. Sometimes it's like, I don't know what's out there for me, but I know I don't want to be with this person anymore. Sometimes I feel like Leafs fans have seen this enough and are owed something different a little bit. It hasn't worked with the current formula. And going into last season, a lot of people were upset that they were running it back with the same formula, saying, I just don't see how it's going to be different. And so when it's not different again, it's just a tough sell. And I know it's Toronto, so people are going to go to games and we're going to talk about them and nothing will change in that regard. But it feels borderline abusive to the fans at this point to not say, hey, but at least we're trying this. It's the old insanity. Everyone uses that same definition, which frankly drives me crazy to hear too. But it does feel crazy to not at least try something else than what they've tried in the past.
Justin, the Leafs only have 7 forwards signed into next season. Excuse me. Whole bunch of free agents. There's a whole lot of news about Ryan O'Reilly, Noel Acciari. Do you see a world where any of these guys come back next season, or are we going to see a whole new bottom 6 with the Maple Leafs come October?
Well, I think if they do keep these guys, you can be sure that the core guys that it's going to be entirely different everywhere else, because that's what they're going to sell to us. And the fans and analysts, they're going to say, well, yeah, same main guys, but look at what else we could do. It's interesting. It's like if you went through the list of unrestricted free agents right now, you could create a bottom 6 and some different looks that you would really like for the Leafs, and that would make them better and you'd like the team. The problem is there's 31 other teams, and you're not going to get to hand pick, all right, we want Tyler Bertuzzi and Dmitry Orlov, and we want Ivan Barbashev, and it doesn't work like that. So, yeah, you're going to see a whole bunch of different names. The different sale and no Kerfoot, no Hall, no Bunting. Some of those guys will be different. So I don't know if that's enough for me, but yeah, I guess we'll wait and see what they end up doing if it's different enough.
We're speaking with Justin Bourne. Justin, to you, what is you think is the optimal roster construction when building a Stanley Cup contender? Is it the Vegas model that we just saw?
I think the biggest thing is being able to play a variety of ways, which is probably the greatest strength of Vegas. Just like they're not an all-in offense team, they're not an all-in defense team. They can do a little bit of everything. And I know Aiden Hill is this guy that people are like, oh, their fourth stringer came out of nowhere. It's like, nah, he made $2.1 million. He was a pretty coveted guy. He's a good goaltender. So you need at least a good goaltender as a basis. But you look at a lot of the guys, Mark Stone as a, point per game guy who can defend like crazy and he's tenacious. And Barbashev was another example of a guy they got. Alex Pietrangelo, say what you will about the slash on Draisaitl. It's dirty. He shouldn't do it. Kind of love your number one D-man having a bit of edge, right? Willing to stand up for themselves and guys take a run at him. So I just feel like there's such value on guys who you can put out in all situations. And the Leafs have some of those guys. Matthews defends, Marner defends. There's no doubt that those guys can do it to a certain degree. Do they stand up for themselves as much as you'd like them to? Maybe not. But I just think it's about being versatile in today's NHL, and you can't be all in on one thing because you're going to play four different teams who do different things well.
Yeah, and that Vegas management took huge swings, bringing in certain players, right? Mark Stone, Pietrangelo, as you just mentioned. So, I mean, it probably does come down to the management a lot. And I have this theory I want to share with you. I just have a feeling that Brad Treliving has something up his sleeve in terms of a big move. I think he doesn't want to use too many bullets right away. And I think that's why he's saving Keefe potentially to maybe move one of the bigger guys. Am I in the right ballpark there, you think?
Well, yeah, I hope so. I hope, I would love that there is some sort of plan other than, here's what I think typically happens. I think when a GM gets hired, they want to protect themselves, right? You want to be a GM of that team as long as possible. It's the Leafs. It's a coveted role. And if he comes in here and he fires the coach and he trades Matthews or Marner and the team's bad in 2 years, he's gone. He will not see year 3. If he comes in here and he soft pedals a little bit, lets Keefe have a year or two, doesn't go great, like he surrounds around the edges, that doesn't work, he still has the chance to then fire the coach, to then make the trade, to then rejig the team. So to me, it's like, I worry that he's going to come in and protect himself when this team needs someone to come in and do something now. So I hope that's the case, because I do think it's possible that they have a chance to get a lot better. Florida got different, from the year before. In fact, they got worse, but different worked for them. Leafs fans just need to see something different, as I mentioned. So yeah, like if one of those things happens at some point in the season, I'll walk back a lot of this like desperation for him to do something now. I just want to see something happen before it's playoff time again.
Yeah.
Although I wonder if Shanahan or Treliving said at the press conference, said, "Listen, yeah, we're gonna make some big change here, move someone important." Then the whole league knows, okay, they're going to trade a big player, right? The value goes down. They're desperate. Can we talk about Mitch? I have a tough relationship with Mitch. I love regular season Mitch.
Yeah.
I don't like postseason Mitch.
Yeah.
You play professional hockey. Players can change, right? Can Mitch find enough belligerence to become useful in the playoffs, or is he just what he is and he needs a better supporting cast?
I think it's a great question. It's a fundamental one of knowing the person, and do you think that person believes that this has been an issue that needs to be addressed and they need to change. One thing that I know from Kyle Dubas, and I know he's not there now, but we had a player on our team as Trevor Moore. He got traded to the Kings. And when he was with us in the American League, they thought he was scared. They thought he was scared to go in the corners. He was new out of college. The pro game was more aggressive. He's not a very big guy. And Dubas heard somewhere along the way that the best thing to do with a player who you believe is scared is to confront them about it and tell them. And so we pulled up video clips and we called in Trevor Moore and we showed him clips of himself and said, "We think you're hesitant on that puck because you're scared to get hit. We think you're hesitant to go to the net here because you're scared to get hit." And they had that conversation with him. And that's a hard conversation to have with a grown man. And, I don't know if that sort of thing is what Mitch needs. I don't know that he's scared. I don't know what it is, but he's different in the playoffs. He can't get to the same places. His average shot distance in the postseason goes up 10 feet. You know, the offensive zone's only 60 feet long. Like, it's a significant difference in the type of player he is in the postseason. So first you need to get him to admit there's a problem. Then you need to work in a solution. And, you know, I don't know if they've done step one yet. I think it's possible that he could fix it if he acknowledges that it's something he wants to fix.
Justin, speaking of Mitch Marner, another guy that doesn't play very well in the playoffs, Auston Matthews. He's due for a big new contract, right? So yesterday we had a bit debate on whether, you know, would you take your full market value or take a little bit less to keep some of the other core guys. Do you see Auston Matthews as a guy taking a bit of a haircut on his next deal, or is he going to try to maximize his AAV going forward?
I've heard Elliot Friedman say that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And we don't have a lot of reason to believe that he's going to suddenly cut the Leafs a great deal. I'd love to be wrong. And I'm not even saying that's the case. I haven't seen him do that yet. So it would be surprising to see him take a big haircut. On the other hand, I have a dad who played in the NHL for 14 years and a father-in-law who did the same. And I can tell you there's a lot of life after hockey. And leaving a place with the goodwill of the fans is worth a lot of money, you know, and particularly in Toronto. And if you can find a way to help the team and help the team win and show to be a team guy, there's a lot of dollars to be made later on in life. And so that for him may be a consideration that in Toronto, it's not necessarily the short-term play of squeezing out an extra $0.625 million per year. You know, that money will come back to you if you show yourself like McKinnon and McDavid, who showed that they prioritized their team and winning. If he did that, I think he'd make a lot of money later for it.
That said, does the union put pressure on players to really maximize their potential? I mean, Auston Matthews can set the bar for the entire league you know, this summer potentially. Do they feel that pressure?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't think they do. It's so funny. I don't know if it's like a hockey exclusive thing where there's this pressure to do the right thing for the team, because realistically, like, go get as much money as you can. And then the next guy's, you know, he's going to be worth that much and it should be a good thing. The salary cap is just killing them right now. And I know that that's an excuse, but like the pandemic really buried them. They're talking about the cap going up. If it's 1 million this year, it'll be 7 million after that. You know, the NBA caps, you know, which is once equal at the NHL, is at 135 million or something now. Like, it's so there is, if you want to win, you almost have to do this right thing where it's like, you should go get the most value you can for yourself. And that should help other people out. But a cap world certainly changes things. So that's one of the reasons I think it would make sense for him to sign a short-term deal, sign for 3 years. And then, you know, you're up again when the cap's 100 million and all of a sudden say, okay, now I want 16 or whatever the number is in 3 years.
Justin, we really appreciate you coming on today. Thanks so much, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.